Perfect pets are hard to find, but the land hermit crab species, Conabeta clypetus, is just about as close to perfect as a pet can be. In this video, we will give you some background information on hermit crabs, take you step by step through setting up a crabarium at home and feeding the crabs. We will also discuss how to properly handle large and small crabs, proper environment, the molting process, new shells and why crabs change shells, breeding with never-before-seen mating rituals, and the anatomy of the crab. We will show you that not only do hermit crabs require a minimum amount of care, but they're also fun to have around. Charlie Rattle already knows this. He's been a marine biologist for 15 years. Not only does he keep the crabs as pets in his home, but he and his wife Linda have made land hermit crabs a way of life with their business, Charlestown Hermits in Charlestown, Rhode Island. Charlie and Linda have been observing and researching the Conabeta clypetus for 5 years in order to determine the best way to care for them and keep them alive for many years.
Hermit crabs have been referred to as the perfect pet for several reasons. They're very easy to care for. They essentially take up a very small space. There's no odor associated with the hermit crab. They carry no disease, and they're hypoallergenic, so anyone who is allergic to pets can own hermit crabs.
In the wild, land hermit crabs have been known to live for up to 75 years. If you take the right steps, your land hermit crab will live a long and prosperous life and bring you many years of enjoyment. First, let's look at the Conabeta clypetus's natural environment. Land hermit crabs originate in tropical climates, which are warm and humid. They hatch in the ocean, but adapt to life on land by inhabiting another creature's shell. Because of the way the Conabeta clypetus hides inside the shell, it has come to be known as the hermit crab. This name is misleading, however, since they naturally live in groups and get along well with each other. The crab's natural warm and humid environment should be duplicated as closely as possible for your pet's healthy existence. A crabarium should be set up, as we're going to show you. Some literature says that gravel, dirt, or sand may be used on the bottom of the aquarium. However, sand, beach sand if possible, is the healthiest and the most similar to the hermit crab's natural home. Let's let an expert show us how it's done.
We're going to construct a crabarium to house our land hermit crabs. The objective of constructing the habitat is to closely mimic the animal's natural environment as much as possible. We've chosen a 20-gallon long aquarium, which provides with the proper lid an escape-proof vehicle which to house our inhabitants. We've chosen beach sand for the substrate on the bottom. The beach sand has been collected where the waves wash up on shoreline. Seawater is a natural dissolvent. Every element known to man is available in seawater. Therefore, the sand that is taken from the area that seawater has washed over contains all essential elements needed by any animal, particularly the land hermit crabs. We provide a 2 to 3 inch base on the bottom. This supports the molting process of the land hermit crab. He can burrow down, shed his exoskeleton as needed, and he'll be secure from any predators as well as other curious hermit crabs while he's in that process. Sand is made up of quartz and other coarse grains. And again, the hermit crab, what he can do and will do is take these sand grains, lick them in his mouth, and that'll provide essential elements such as copper, manganese, and zinc for the long-term health and well-being of the hermit crab. On top of the sand, we're going to provide items for the crabs to climb on. First element we're going to put in, which is both functional and aesthetic, is cork bark. This is somewhat absorbent, so what it allows us to do is to spray it, and it provides a natural humidifier within the crabarium. In addition to the cork bark, we've discovered that a cactus skeleton, commonly called koya wood, has some type of attractant for the hermit crabs. The hermit crabs really enjoy climbing on it, as well as a moist piece of koya wood will again provide a natural humidifier within the tank. In constructing the crabarium, we are essentially making a waterless fish tank. You want something that is both pleasing and aesthetically pleasing to the eye, as well as functional for the inhabitants. We also are providing driftwood. Crabs are somewhat arboreal. They like to climb. So providing items for the crab to climb on is important. If a crab just has a solid sand base with nothing to climb on, he'll investigate his crabarium and then remain somewhat inactive. Okay, along with things to climb on, we also want to provide for the hermit crabs a source of calcium carbonate. We are going to do this in two areas that we believe is optimal. One is with barnacles. Barnacles are very nice. They look nice. The crabs are able to climb on them. They'll hold water, and the crabs will actually eat the edges, again, to provide the essential element of calcium for their exoskeleton as they molt. Another source of calcium carbonate is coral. Corals come in many colors, many designs, and they are very, very pleasing in a crabarium. Okay, now that we have the basics set up for the house, we're now going to provide food and water for the crabs. What we use are natural seashells, one for food and one for water. We press them into the sand so that the crabs will not turn them over. And place water in one. What the crabs will do, a low dish of water is important because the crabs require humidity. What they will do as they need liquid, they'll go over to the low dish of water and walk into it. Again, as a natural seashell, it'll chew on the edges and it'll provide a source of calcium for the well-being of the crab. You want to avoid any type of metal dishes because the elements associated with an inexpensive metal or a tin can provide a heavy metal poisoning to the crab. In addition to the food and water dishes, we're going to provide natural sponges. We're going to moisten the natural sponges. These have not been processed in any manner. They've just been harvested from the ocean. We'll place those around the crabarium. This serves two purposes. If the crab would like a drink, he can go over to the sponge and he'll actually eat the chitinous material that comprises the sponge, and again will support the hardening of the exoskeleton of the hermit crab. And the second source and reason for the sponge is to maintain a high relative humidity within the crabarium. Crabs require humidity for respiration. They will actually become lethargic and start to suffocate if they get into a very dry environment. So humidity is the key. Another method of providing humidity within the crabarium is to mist the inside walls so that as it evaporates, it'll go directly to the crab. A slight misting of the substrate is good, but you don't want it wet or soggy. The crab does not like a wet environment. He likes a humid, dry environment, a dry substrate and a humid relative humidity. Now in the food dish, we're using a commercially prepared hermit crab chow. Hermit crabs, like all other animals, require proteins, carbohydrates, and sugars. And this is provided in a commercially prepared hermit crab chow. Hermit crabs are omnivorous. They're actually nocturnal, omnivorous scavengers, which means they feed primarily at night. They'll eat fruits, vegetables, meats, and just about anything that is available. Well, now that we have the crabarium ready, we are now able to include its inhabitants. For this crabarium, we've chosen 5 medium-sized hermit crabs. Hermit crabs are gregarious in nature. They live in groups and colonies, and they get along very well with each other. The hermit crab likes to be misted. That usually makes him more active. He will come out and explore his new surroundings. We've chosen 5 for this crabarium setup, but a 20-gallon tank such as this could house probably 10 to 15 without a problem. Okay, now that our inhabitants are in their crabarium, we're going to add their extra shells The crabs have been sized up previously so that each crab has the next shell available to him in the growth process. The crab grows by molting. They have a growth spurt. They grow underneath their exoskeleton. They break open their exoskeleton. It is shed. And then the crab is larger in size. As the crab is larger in size, he needs the next size shell. They are inhabitants of other shells. They take them mostly from gastropods. Gastropods are snails that live in the sea, and they also can take them from some land snails that are available within the crab's natural range. This species, Conobita clypetus, has been found up to 10 miles from the coastline. So they're inhabitants of the trees in the coastal area, but they have a wide range of availability. They return to the ocean to find their new shells, and their life is a quest for food and the next size shell. Now that we have our crabarium constructed, the last element is a secure lid. Even though this is an aquarium with glass sides, aquariums are constructed with a silicone sealant in the corner. The crabs are able to use their ambulatory legs as pitons, very similar to a mountain climber. They'll use that to go up the side so a crab can actually escape from an uncovered aquarium. A secure lid will keep that from happening, and this will provide the optimal environment to house your land hermit crabs. They should have a long existence under this environment.
Feeding your hermit crab is an easy job, since scavengers will eat almost anything. They're fond of fruit, and peanut butter also seems to be a favorite. But remember, just like you and me, the hermit crab needs a balanced diet in order to stay healthy. As Charlie said, people food should be supplemented with a commercial hermit crab chow, which you can find in almost all pet stores. In your crabarium, food should be placed in a shallow dish or a shell. Non-chlorinated water should also be available in a shallow dish, which the crab can climb out of. If a crab is submerged for too long and can't get out, it will eventually drown. Fresh food should be available at all times, and water should be changed daily. Once the crabs become familiar with you, they'll eat right out of your hand. When picking up a large crab, you should grab it by the shell. With smaller crabs, a flat palm is perfect.
Hermit crabs are not aggressive, so you can place the hermit crab in a flat palm and he won't come out to try to bite you. However, if the crab feels insecure, if he believes he's going to fall or he's being mistreated, by being mistreated, I mean getting in a palm, closing your hand up, turning him upside down, a number of ways that the crab feels insecure. If the crab is insecure, he'll hold on. If he holds on, it's painful if he grabs a soft area on your hand. Often, they can get a hold between the fingers. If that does happen, in the unlikely event that that does happen, first of all, it means that the crab was mishandled, so it shouldn't be a common occurrence. However, if you have that unfortunate event occur, what you do is place the crab under warm water in your hand to allow the crab to release his grip. Don't try to pull the crab if he's attached to your hand away from your hand. That can result in a piece of your skin being torn away and a wound that should not occur.
As mentioned earlier, the hermit crab needs a warm, humid environment. Heat sources can be achieved in several ways. One way is a light on top of the crabarium. Also, a heater can be placed underneath the sand. Whatever heat source you choose, the ideal temperature is 75 to 85 degrees and should be verified with a thermometer on the glass. Make sure that the crabarium is out of direct sunlight and away from drafty areas to avoid temperature extremes. Humidity is also essential. Land hermit crabs need humidity to breathe. Their lungs are not completely efficient without moisture. The crabs also take in oxygen through blood vessels on their abdomen. Moisture inside the shell helps this process. To keep the environment humid, mist the crabarium with water each day. Keep moist sponges around. And you can even mist the crabs, which they seem to enjoy. The surface of the sand should be dry and should always be kept clean to keep the crabarium and your pets free of bacteria. The best way to clean the sand is by rinsing in water and allowing it to air dry or bake it in the oven. Land hermit crabs also like to climb, so provide them with items like non-resinous wood, such as driftwood, koya wood, or cork bark. Coral and barnacles are also good for climbing. Just make sure they're sterilized by boiling. These things also provide calcium, which helps the crab develop its hard exoskeleton. The exoskeleton is made mostly of chitin and helps protect the crab. As your crab grows, it will periodically shed this exoskeleton and grow a new one. This is called molting and is essential for the crab to grow and survive.
The molting process is the natural way that crustaceans grow. What they'll do is they will actually grow underneath their hard exoskeleton, and as they get large and too large for their current size, the exoskeleton will break apart and explode, and the hermit crab will then have a soft exoskeleton below it. At that time, it looks just like the entire hermit crab has died. Often, the entire exoskeleton will be intact, hanging out of the shell. You have to be very careful that you do not mistakenly assume that hermit crab has died. What you check is remove the exoskeleton and look inside. Usually there'll be a little pink, it looks pink from the outside, hermit crab that has just molted. This is a very delicate and stressful time for the crab. He should be isolated, he should be provided extra warmth and extra humidity. It takes often 10 days for the new exoskeleton to reharden. This is the period of time that if the crab does not have the essential elements within its body chemistry, the exoskeleton will not harden properly and the hermit crab will not live. The molting process in the smaller crabs is more frequent than the larger crabs. In the smaller crabs, it could be as often as every other month. As they grow, it becomes less frequent. In the very large jumbo crabs, they might not molt for several years. Not only is the molting process a process which provides growth to crustaceans, but it also allows the regenerative properties of any lost appendages, legs, eyes, antenna.
During molting, the old exoskeleton should be left for the crab to eat. This provides the elements he needs for his new exoskeleton to harden. Eggshells are a good substitute if the exoskeleton is eaten by other molting crabs. As your crab grows, he will also need new shells to grow into, so plenty should be available. A new shell should have an opening that is 1/3 to 1/2 again as large as the shell your crab currently occupies. Good crab shells have a deep chamber with a round opening. The large kiloped or pincher can close this opening off if the crab is threatened. Shells to avoid are shells with long, narrow openings, which can allow air inside and dry the crab out, or chambered shells which lack depth. New crab shells should be boiled to kill any bacteria or parasites before placed in the crabarium. But make sure the shell is not inhabited before you boil it. The appearance of a shell is not important to the crab, but it's always nice to have an attractive home for your pet.
If the crab is out of his shell, what you should do is take him, run him under some tepid water, and provide several proper shells of the proper size for him to move into. Put him in an isolated container with no substrate and allow him to choose the shell that he wants on his own. In the unlikely event he does not choose a shell, gently take the crab and place his lower abdomen in the opening of the shell and tap the crab lightly. This should induce him to insert his abdomen within the shell, and then he will then have his proper home once again.
Hermit crabs range in size from a 1 or 2-year-old crab as small as a thimble to softball-sized jumbos, which may be 20 or more years old. They start breeding at a very young age, but do not reproduce in captivity. Hermit crabs usually mate once or twice a year between July and December, but will only mate under ideal conditions and rarely in captivity. To our knowledge, the video and audio you are about to see and hear have never been captured on videotape before. The mating cycle is usually completed within 1 hour, although during our observation, these 1-hour cycles continued for almost 24 hours. First, The male takes the female crab and rolls the shell over onto the back so that the large kiloped is facing up. The male moves each of his walking legs to each end of the female's shell. In an almost robotic motion, the male starts rocking the female's shell back and forth. During this time, a chirping sound is heard from the female. This lasts for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. The male then takes one of his walking legs and rubs the female's large kiloped slowly and gently, first on the right side for about 8 to 10 strokes, then on the left side in the same manner. During this time, a loud chirping sound is heard, followed by what almost sounds like a frog croaking. After 15 to 20 minutes, the male pulls away from the female. The male and female open their large kilopeds and grasp onto each other, but they do not clamp down too hard. As you can hear, the chirping sounds intensify, with each one making a different sound, almost as if they were talking to each other. It is believed that mating often occurs just prior to a female crab's molting process, so it is not uncommon for the female to withdraw into her shell immediately following the mating ritual.
Hermit crabs live in groups and colonies along the coastline. What they have for a breeding cycle is twice a year they have internal copulation. Females and males will make a trek to the beach. This is really for two reasons. One is to deposit their eggs on the shoreline. The other is to find new shells while they are there. After internal copulation, the female will hold the eggs along her abdomen with 3 forked appendages. The small females can have between 800 and 1,200 eggs. Larger females can be up to 40 to 50,000 eggs at one time. Crabs become sexually mature at a very young age, so even tiny female crabs are able to reproduce. What they will do is, in holding these eggs, they'll walk to the shoreline at night, usually at a low tide. Then they'll deposit their eggs, usually using their walking appendages to flick the eggs along the sand. When the tide comes in, the eggs hatch instantly. At that point, they become part of the zooplankton. They're actually small little animals living that are almost microscopic. The zooplankton feed on the phytoplankton. The phytoplankton are the small plants that are available in the ocean. It takes approximately 40 to 60 days for the small hatching eggs to go through 4 to 6 different zoeal phases. After that, they become large enough that they're no longer part of the plankton and they settle out.
The sex of a hermit crab cannot be determined unless the crab is out of its shell. This should not be a consideration when choosing a crab for a pet, because there are no differences in behavior or size. The anatomy of a hermit crab is unique, starting with the eyes, which are on stalks. These eyes can be regenerated during molting if one is lost. In fact, all of the crab's appendages can be regenerated.
The crab is from the order Decapoda. Decapoda means 10-legged. Deca meaning 10, poda meaning leg. The first 2 legs are kilopeds, the pinchers, commonly referred to. The left one is always larger than the right one. The left one is used for climbing, for balance, and for defense. And the right, or smaller one, is their feeding kiloped. With that, it'll take portions of food and pass it up to the maxillae, which pass the food into the mandibles, into the jaw. Behind the 2 pincher claws, they have 4, 2 on each side, ambulatory legs. That's the way a crab has locomotion. So that accounts for 6 of the 10 legs, with the other 4 legs being reduced in size further back on the cephalothorax, and their main function is for holding on to the shell and positioning the shell as the crab has locomotion.
With this knowledge, caring for your land hermit crab should be easy, but more importantly, it should be fun. This unique pet is entertaining for all ages and will live a long and happy life with proper care. Now that you know all about these amazing little creatures, what could be more perfect than having one or more of your own?